No, I'm kidding. I'm trying to turn off my telephone. I suggest that we all do that. Here we go. Off. Okay. Okay, I have to remove this little added screen. Got it. Okay. Good morning, everyone. It's so good to see each one of you. It's so good, and we are so blessed to have the ability to do this, to see each one of us. That's just really, really something that none of us probably would have dreamed would happen in our lifetime. Many things are happening in our lifetime right now that we would never dream possible or probable. And yet here we are. So it's just, this is a phrase I really don't like, but it's really true. It is what it is. So let's just deal with that. I don't like that phrase for some reason, but that's true. We are in this now moment. And that's what you get sometimes when you're in the now moment. Okay, all that aside, happy Mother's Day to each one of you who have nurtured a child at some time in your life. You may be a woman, most likely you are. And those of you especially who have given birth uh, in the natural way, we honor you for the extreme love and patience and ability to endure discomfort and pain and everything it takes to bring another living being into this world. I want to talk today about part of my life, just a very short part, and then get into the idea of honoring mothers on this day. The reason I want to talk a little bit about myself, as all of you probably already know, and I've expressed it many times, on my mother's side of the family, I am part Chickasaw Indian. And that I'm very, very proud of that. And I acknowledge all those who came before me to stay together to form this wonderful nation and tribe. They call themselves the Chickasaw Nation, unconquered and unconquerable. And that's their view of life. And historically, that's the way it was. Historically, also, the idea of being married into a family monogamously is the way that it has been done in the culture for as long as anyone can remember. But also in the culture, the husband changes his name and takes on a new name, not necessarily the last name because they didn't do those sort of things, but he takes on a new name when he joins the family of his wife. It was not, I thought it was called a matriarchal society, but I was mistaken. It's called a matrilineal society because the lineage is followed through the mother and not through the father. Now, is that the only culture that does such a thing? No, it's not. The Choctaw Indians also do that, and the Iroquois Indians and many, many other tribes in North America and have done that, taken on the name of the woman. Matrilineal societies, matrilineal cultures. Now, in Europe and in Asia, there are historically the same sort of things where a matrilineal society existed. That was the downfall of some of these societies because they were so peaceful. They did not try to settle their disagreements with their neighbors through war. but rather through talking to them, persuasion, debate, diplomacy, and trade. Oftentimes, that's the answers that you would get of how they handled the world. Their gods that they worshiped were, first of all, primarily women gods, female gods, goddesses, if you will. They had Ishtar, Isis, Astarte. I talked about a lot of these, or attempted to talk about these on Easter through my three-part talk that I did on Easter. Unfortunately, it was a three-part talk. But one of the things I was talking about is how all of these different cultures had, first of all, a woman or a female as the progenitor of all life on earth. That took nothing more than simple observation on their parts. They could see how everyone had been brought into this world through women. So obviously women had a special power or mojo or juju or whatever you want to call it. They had this power within them to actually produce and nurture children. The men, on the other hand, were participants, much like the ham and egg story. But the men were participants. And this participation that they did was considered sort of part of the norm, but secondary, because most of the action required to bring forth birth and life onto this earth came through the women. So their logic told them, obviously, the power lies in women. And through marriage, many of us, even to this day, realize that to be so true. The power in holding together a relationship, I'm not joking here, lies in the attitude and responsibilities accepted by the women. Women are very, very important. So how did we get this in our society today so turned over? Well, even these matriarchal or matrilineal societies understood that leadership and protection could occur easier through men than it could through women. Women were hung up, raising children, providing food on the table, taking care of the domicile, whatever it was. And even though they were extremely important, they weren't so good at beating the heck out of their neighbors or driving back hostile forces, that sort of thing. They saw that that worked better for the men to do it just because the men were taller, stronger, faster, more aggressive. And so they just allowed that to take place in society. Throughout the Middle East, there were cultures that were, they planted, they were a planter type culture, agrarian culture, and they raised vegetables, and most of their food came from the earth, producing vegetables. And fruit, of course, off of trees. The wandering cultures oftentimes were in total opposition to this type of thing. All was done and taken care of and controlled by men in their culture and by that aggression. They would gather and they were considered hunter-gatherers in a sense, but they were also the kind of people who said, well, you know, our society is really growing and multiplying. It's doing well, but we're getting to a point where the earth is no longer producing the way it should or anything. And rather than try to figure out how to make that earth that they had more productive, they looked over the fence and saw that their neighbors were doing pretty good there, those agronomists. And they said, rather than learn from them, let's just take what they have. Let's just take it. So that's the way many cultures grew in ancient times, was through aggression and possession. Well, their gods were men. They had, there was a group, especially the Hebrew nation, which was a very wandering kind of nation. They had a way of looking at life, that they had one God, and he was a sky god, Yahweh. And Yahweh would tell them what to do, and they would go out and do it. Tell them what to do through their aggressive leadership. Go to this nation, tear down their cities, kill all their people, and take everything, plunder them, take everything that belonged to them and call it your own. And if you want a few slaves to help you take care of this, they're available right there in that city. Leave a few alive, take them as slaves. What a way. And that went on for centuries that way, centuries. And I'm not picking on just the Hebrews. There were lots of societies that did that. They would pick on these societies that had goddesses and say, you're doing it all wrong. We're going to use that as an excuse to kill all of you and take what belongs to you. So it was just a raid and plunder over and over and over again. Like I said, the Hebrews weren't the only ones. The Nordic tribes did sort of the same thing. They had Odin, and that was their primary god, and everybody else fell below that. Odin had a wife, but she was just as mean and carried spears and did all that sort of thing, because that's just the mindset that they had. Now, having said all that, I want to look back for a moment at what would life be like if we lived in a matrilineal society nowadays. Men coming into the family of a woman, taking a new name, trying to identify with their culture, their way of doing things, and from then on being told or persuaded what to do by the woman's family. The first thing that comes along is they have some children. Okay, the children are a part of the society of the woman. That would lead to more and more children growing up with probably a cleaner environment, more manners, more peaceful in their ways of communicating with others, and more societally pleasant in so many ways. Oh, really? Would it really be that way? Why are women so much softer, kinder, able to find a way of doing things in their life through more than simple aggression? I think the very act of giving birth changes a woman's psyche in so many ways. They're going along through a society that's ruled by men, and they're not happy about it, and obviously they, justifiably not happy about the way things are. They see that women are oppressed in many ways, and that they don't make as much money as a man for exactly the same type of work and the number of hours put in on it. They see from birth. Let me give you an example. I remember when I was a young boy, my father was the coach of my sister's. No, wait a minute. He was the coach of my sister's softball team, and he was also the coach of my brother's baseball team, little league baseball team. This person called up on the phone and said, I want to be on the baseball team. And he's a little child did. And he said, and I heard him on the phone saying, okay, fine. What's your name? And then suddenly he said, are you, and the name was like generic. You couldn't tell if it was male or female. Can't remember what it was now, Bobby or something. And he said, wait a minute, are you a boy or a girl? And she said, I'm a girl. I want to play baseball. And he said, but you're a girl. You can't play. You can be on the softball team, but you can't be on the baseball team. Being a child, she just said, okay, gave up. I have never forgotten that phone call. How my father automatically assumed that because she was a girl, she couldn't play baseball. She might have been one of the best baseball players he had on the team, but he never even gave her the opportunity. Wrong. Wrong in my eyes today. But I was right there with him when I was young, but I didn't forget that story. So as you can see, that's a simple slight that women are recognized almost every day of their lives. So certainly when that sort of thing happens, there's a resentment and an anger that builds up within the soul, or around the soul, not within, but around the soul of a person who has been treated this way. A woman, a female. What is it that puts her in a position that she would ever want to be a loving person? I think what happens is that she suddenly realizes growing inside of me is another human being. Oh my gosh. My whole life has changed now. Changed in a way that I never expected. Now, we all know that right now there's a great debate and a misfortune will occur in our countries pretty soon, of taking away a right to decide what you want to do with your own body. We're going backwards. But at the same time, looking just at the gestation and growth of a child, something changes. Something that men will never experience or understand. We will never understand this attachment that mothers have for the child that they bear into the world. They're taking care of it, and for the most part, there is a change that occurs. Is it just a physiological change that occurs in this way? I'd argue that it's not. It's more than that. It is a recognition of love, a recognition of a different kind of love that has ever been experienced in this individual. Suddenly, this love, this nurturing feeling, just suddenly is there. It's there, and it stays there for the entire life of the female. Because that's something that's buried deep inside her and sort of hardwired. It's there. Some deny it, some embrace it. unfortunately more and more embrace it when it actually occurs. Men will never understand because we cannot experience that. Yes, we can be fathers. We can protect and provide, and we can impart what we call our wisdom in so many ways, but we'll never, ever have the connection that a mother has for her child, ever. Now, many of you know that I spoke one time, the year was 2005, and it was Mother's Day. And I sort of told the experience of my mother and myself. Afterwards, I asked somebody, how do you think that Mother's Day talk went? And she said, terrible. It was terrible. You did nothing but stand up there and process in front of us. It just was not pleasant at all, and it did not honor women on the special day. I learned from that experience. I learned so well that this is the first time since 2005 that I've ever attempted to do a Mother's Day talk again. That's a long time. But somehow I would always get a guest speaker, or I would be out of town, or something would happen so that I didn't have to get into that groove again. I just felt so terribly embarrassed about my inability to give a Mother's Day talk. I think one of the reasons was I wasn't awakened yet. I wasn't aware of what a mother really is. A mother is somebody that takes care of you from the moment you're born, whether they want to or not. It's there. You're theirs. They are yours. I think, and I'm only thinking, I'm guessing, that there is a connection that happens when you women who are mothers, look at that child, that little helpless baby, and you feel a new feeling from deep within yourself that you never, ever had the chance to experience before. And you know, this is good. This is real. This is important. And this is my purpose on earth. To love in a way that I never thought I was capable of, to love unconditionally, to love with all the passion that I have within me for as long as I can. Endurance, strength, caring, an ability to provide special wisdom that a man cannot produce, an intuitive feeling, almost like magic, a special kind of magic, a healing magic that each one of us have experienced through our mothers. Now, we may not have had the best relationship in the world with our mother, but mainly that wasn't her fault. That was us trying to pull away. That was us trying to identify as a self individual as opposed to our moms. I think there's a difference in culture today than there was, say, in World War II. In World War II, there were songs about mothers. There were men who went into battle, young men who went into battle, carrying within their kit bag or whatever it might be, or maybe close to their heart in their pocket, a picture not only of their girlfriend on one side, but their mom. They had this really deep connection with their moms. I'm now 75 years old and just now waking up to the idea that the love of a mother is so special and is so deep that each one of us should honor that deeper and in more honor than we could possibly ever imagine. Happy Mother's Day to each one of you who are mothers, who have mothered and nurtured and raised children, be they your own or others. Happy Mother's Day. I appreciate you now so much more in my life. And I'm hoping that this short little talk that I'm giving can help bring some more connection to each and every one of you. God bless you all. Thank you.